Okay, so we are entering LAN II class, and we are week 7. Week 7. We're supposed to finish test out module 11. When is test out module 11 due? That's due on Friday, October 9th. Cool. And let's look at week 8 just to see. And that one's due on the 16th. Okay. Oh, there's Jacob. Jacob made it. Okay, so week 7 and test out module 11 is covering printing. I got my cool Microsoft Word text up here. It's pretty neat. Great, awesome stuff. So you can see everything on my screen, correct?
See.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the terms that you need to know in printing with Microsoft, we'll probably only have about 20 minutes or so of instructions here, and then you can go finish all of your test out. But I wanted to cover some key terms. The thing that produces ink on paper. Wait, who disappeared?
I think they printed.
I don't know.
Somebody disappeared.
It wasn't me. I'm still here. Talon's still here. That's all that matters, honestly.
I don't know, seems kind of sus. I think they might be.
I am also still here.
Matthew York. Matthew York disappeared. He has internet issues. That's what happened to him.
So you believe?
Yeah, his voice has been weird and choppy before. Oh yeah, one note before I start lecturing, I'm gonna look real quick. Check everybody's assignments, grades. Not show them on the screen. Try not to show them on the screen anyway. So hopefully everybody's got test out modules 8, 9, and 10 done. And then 11 is due this week. So, okay. Okay, so the key terms in here with printing. A big question, the device that outputs things on pieces of paper with ink, what is that called? What is that device called in Microsoft terms? Not what you would call it. Does anybody know? I hear crickets. Anybody want to take a guess? Somebody take a guess. Matthew York says power surge. Oh, no, that's not the answer to the question. Andrew's got his mic unmuted. Then he muted again. We thought you were guessing what Microsoft called the device that that puts ink on paper.
Do they just call it a printer too?
They tried to call it a printer, I think, when 2012 came out, and then they changed it. They no longer call it a printer anymore. They call it back to their old school naming convention. The main reason is you're thinking of standard 8 by 11 sheets of paper, or maybe legal like 8 by 14 sheets of paper with ink on it. But there's also things that put out, 3 by 5 foot sheets of paper. We call those blueprints and stuff. You have things that put out 3D plastic generated things or metal generated things. So Microsoft original naming convention for those types of devices was print device. And they ingrained it into everybody's head that took the certifications that was the answer. You didn't pick printer because you would get it wrong. You pretty much failed their test just about if you didn't have their naming convention right.
I think I have the answer to that question. I think it's called print device.
So what does Microsoft define a printer as? What's a printer in Microsoft's term? They actually do use printer, but they don't define it as what most people think is a printer. Only IT people that have to deal with Microsoft think that think a print device versus printer. Although we have to talk with our customers as everything's a printer. But when we take the certification exam, we got to use Microsoft terms and think of print device instead of printer. And when we think of printer, well, we got to think of printer too. What is a printer? It's the software interface. My font's too big for that. I wanted that on one line. There we go. So printer is the software interface. So it's basically the icon that you see in your settings inside of Windows. So you look at that as the driver and software that controls the print device. That's a major key term if you're dealing with any type of questions with Microsoft. You also have another printing term called a queue, which is as people have said on some memes, it's simply a queue followed by 4 silent letters. It's obnoxious. Queue. You know,
A queue is something that is fixing to be in the process of getting printed. It's kind of in the waiting process.
Yep. This is the waiting process or storage location. Are big enough letters for you?
I don't know. I can barely see it.
So storage location waiting to be sent to the print device. And that's typically on a print server somewhere. The reason that it's sitting in the queue is more than one job is being sent to the printer, and one of them is having to wait while the device is busy. And so it's stored on a hard drive somewhere until the print device is done with its job and clear to accept new devices. It could also be put on the queue because you're out of paper and it's just sitting, or you're out of ink, or you're out of plastic, or out of something. So it's sitting in the queue. Here's another cool, awesome, amazing term. Spooler, or spooling. What is that? That one job is being moved from printer to queue, or queue to print device. Your spooler or spooling is when the job is being sent from like the application to the print queue, or from the print queue to the print device. And that's what spooling is. So if you know those 4 terms, and you can differentiate between them, in Microsoft's fantasy world, I guess, I mean, it makes sense, then you should do pretty good on Microsoft tests and stuff. But Microsoft did try to change and just start calling print device and printer about the same thing in their documentation. And all of the people that had ever taken a Microsoft test revolted. And after they had 500,000 people outside of Redmond, Washington's headquarters with pitchforks with burning marshmallows on them, threatening to burn the building down. Okay, that didn't really happen, but they decided that they would go back to their old naming conventions of stuff and start calling print device again. Anything that outputs something from a computer. So it could be any type of 3D things. You know, they started printing 3D face shield holders and things like that for the COVID. You may have stuff laser engraved, and that would probably be drawn on a computer and then etched on a print device. So that's why they didn't call things printer, because a printer, in their terms, a print device could be anything. It doesn't have to put out a piece of paper. And they determined printer was a software interface for a print device. I mean, I've heard them even 3D printing houses in concrete things before. So if you're all good with that, some of the major troubleshooting things, I'm going to go and delete this off the screen. It will be, I am recording still, right? Yes, I am recording. So this will be up on YouTube. Oh no, it deleted all of my cool. There we go. Okay, so some of the commands in Windows, has anybody ever had where they went file, print, and then clicked OK, and your job got stuck? Or have you had any customers where the job got stuck, and then you tried to delete the thing, and it just sit there and said deleting, and it was still stuck, and you couldn't get the thing deleted, and it wouldn't print out on the print device? Anybody run into that before?
I think I did one time in school.
So Jared thinks he's seen that. If you become an IT staff person, that becomes a little bit more common they're making improvements all the time, and I've had to do that less and less, especially over the last year and a half, 2 years or so. But sometimes your print job will still get hung up. I think I had to do it on a neighbor's computer. So something happened with the print job, and somebody else had bad commands, or it was lazy, and it just got hung up and got confused and locked itself up. So the thing is stuck in the queue. For some reason, the Spooler service that send and receive jobs can't send any more commands. It can't tell it to delete the file. It can't tell it to send it onto the print device. It just hung there, and then nobody else can send stuff to the print device. So a command that people that work in IT, they almost all have this one memorized: net stop Spooler. I'll spell it right. Net stop Spooler. That stops the print spool, well, basically the printer interface in Windows. And then after it stops, a net start spooler will launch the spooler print service back up. And then you can go in and attempt to delete the print job, or if you had already hit delete and it said deleting and would never delete, once you do these 2 steps, sometimes the print job is no longer in the queue. It goes ahead and deletes it. Those 2 commands are much, much easier than finding the services, MMC snap-in, or the console, looking at all of the services, finding the print spooler service, and then clicking the stop function, and then clicking the start function. It's normally so much faster to open a command prompt window or PowerShell window and type these commands in. Pretty cool. If you're at a computer now, it doesn't hurt anything. You could go ahead and launch a shell command line interface window and practice the commands. Okay. An admin command shell window instead of an unelevated one. Quite easy to execute, and should say, hey, the print spooler service was stopped successfully. Yes. And then start the spooler service. I've had to do this on servers, had to do it on client machines, in different places where that a print job would get hung up and would no longer work. So I find that really fast to do versus trying to find services either in control panel or searching for it and waiting for services to launch, because it's graphical. Graphical things sometimes take a while, and sometimes it's connected to a wrong computer. So if I try to restart the print spooler service and not connected to my local machine, well, I wouldn't be doing anything good. Yeah, it's weird. I connected to Jonathan's computer. So here's services, and then I'd have to scroll Instead of just typing the commands, I've already been done typing the commands. Finding the print spooler service and clicking restart or start and stop on it. And then closing back that down. So there's a lot of your printing in a nutshell, the Microsoft terminology, some of the troubleshooting commands that you can type in. There'll be some more when we get into actually setting up server 3 as a print server, installing printers onto it and deploying them out through group policy. We'll talk about print drivers and different levels of print drivers, and then how to view installed print drivers and get rid of old print drivers on a server. And then, can everybody still hear me?
Oh,
Because one person can't hear me anymore. Maybe the person went deaf. That would be bad.
huh?
Does anybody have any printing questions for me concerning Microsoft printing? That's probably what most of y'all do, though, is print from Microsoft.
So does Microsoft have its own printer, or is it all just like Dell and?
They don't manufacture any of the hardware.
But they have the services to run it.
Yep.
That's
Framework. The printers actually write the driver, and they get it certified that it works with Microsoft Framework for printing. They also write drivers for other operating systems too, like Mac and Linux. Okay, so what I'm going to give you for the rest of the class is I'm going to give you time to finish. It should be a very short, I believe it. I said it was chapter 11 or module 11 in test out, since it is due Friday. And on Wednesday and Friday, I want to be doing labs and actually setting up these print devices, looking at the drivers and stuff like that in lab. Labs always take a while for you to click through everything and practice.